Food is comforting, delicious, and deceptively deadly. When ordinary meals turn fatal, the line between nourishment and nightmare vanishes. From a chili challenge gone wrong to toast that tore through flesh, these are the 5 most bizarre deaths ever caused by food. They're not just tragic, they're almost impossible to believe. It was October 2015 in Barry, South Wales. Darren Bray, a 29-year-old father of 3, was enjoying a night out with friends. Known for his playful personality and love of making others laugh, Darren was always the life of the party. On this particular evening, what started as innocent fun would lead to an unimaginable tragedy. The night had been filled with laughter, drinks, and camaraderie. As the evening progressed, Darren and his friends decided they were hungry. His friend Sam Bisgrove volunteered to make a quick run to McDonald's, and Darren requested a simple cheeseburger, a 99-cent item that would become the instrument of his death. When Sam returned with the food, the group gathered at his house to eat. The atmosphere was light as they shared stories and jokes. Darren, always looking for ways to entertain his friends, suddenly had an idea for a stunt. He held up his McDonald's cheeseburger, a gleam of mischief in his eyes. "Watch this," he announced to the room, drawing everyone's attention. With dramatic flair, Darren compressed the burger, squashing it into a tight ball about half its original size. The group watched, some amused, others curious about what he planned to do next. Without hesitation, Darren opened his mouth wide and stuffed the entire burger inside at once. At first, there were laughs and cheers at his audacity, but within seconds, the mood shifted dramatically. Darren's expression changed from playful to panicked as he realized he couldn't swallow the massive ball of food. His face began to turn blue and he made desperate coughing sounds as he struggled to dislodge the burger. Sam, recognizing the seriousness of the situation, rushed to help his friend. He slapped Darren's back repeatedly, trying to dislodge the food blocking his airway. Amy Bennett, Sam's girlfriend who was also present, watched in horror as Darren's condition rapidly deteriorated. "I could see him trying to cough it up and he was making horrible coughing noises," Sam would later recall at the inquest. "I tried to hit his back to help him clear his airway." Despite their frantic efforts, Darren collapsed. Sam immediately called emergency services while continuing to try to help his friend. Paramedics arrived quickly and performed CPR, but the obstruction was too severe. Darren Bray was pronounced dead at the scene. The post-mortem examination revealed the extent of the tragedy. Dr. Rhiannon Trefor, the pathologist who conducted the examination, found a massive ball of food measuring approximately 3.1 inches by 2 inches, 8 centimeters by 5 centimeters, lodged in Darren's throat. The burger had completely blocked his airway, making it impossible for him to breathe. "He would not have been able to breathe with that in his airway," Dr. Trefor explained. "Death would have followed quite quickly from a choking of this nature." The inquest at Cardiff Coroner's Court heard that while Darren had been drinking that night, his blood alcohol level was about 1.5 times the legal driving limit. It wasn't enough to significantly impair his judgment. Assistant Coroner Christopher Woolley recorded a conclusion of death by misadventure, acknowledging that Darren had not intended to harm himself, but had taken a risk that unfortunately led to his death. Among those most affected by the tragedy was Darren's childhood friend, professional boxer Lee Selby. The two had grown up together in Barry, and Selby was devastated by the loss. When he won the International Boxing Federation Featherweight Championship later that year, he dedicated his victory to Darren's memory. Darren Bray's death serves as a sobering reminder of how quickly a moment of fun can turn fatal. What began as a simple stunt, eating a cheeseburger in one bite, ended in tragedy, leaving 3 children without a father and a community mourning the loss of a man known for his humor and zest for life. His story stands as a cautionary tale about the thin line between harmless pranks and deadly risks. It was October 10, 2014 in Rhyl, Wales. Vera Williams, a 75-year-old grandmother, sat down for what should have been an ordinary breakfast. The morning light filtered through her kitchen window as she prepared a simple piece of toast, a meal she had made countless times before. But on this particular morning, that everyday breakfast would set in motion a chain of events leading to her death. As Vera bit into her toast, a sharp fragment broke off and scraped her throat as she swallowed. The initial discomfort seemed minor, just the kind of small irritation that happens occasionally when eating. She felt a scratch, a slight pain, but nothing that seemed worth worrying about. She continued her day, pushing the discomfort to the back of her mind, but the pain persisted. By afternoon, the scratching sensation in her throat had grown more noticeable. Concerned, Vera decided to visit the emergency room at Glan Clwyd Hospital. There, junior doctor Noor Ismail examined her throat, but found no visible injuries. With no obvious signs of trauma and Vera appearing otherwise healthy, the doctor sent her home, believing it was nothing serious. serious. For the next 2 weeks, Vera lived with the continuous pain. The sharp piece of toast had done more damage than anyone realized. It had torn her esophagus, creating a small perforation that would gradually worsen. Each swallow, each movement of her throat aggravated the injury further. On October 23rd, the pain became unbearable. Vera returned to the hospital, this time seen by Dr. Adedeji Adeleke. She described the pain in her neck, but, crucially, didn't mention that she'd been suffering continuously since her previous visit 2 weeks earlier. Without this critical information, Dr. Adeleke diagnosed an infection and prescribed antibiotics, sending Vera home once again. The next day, Vera's condition deteriorated dramatically. She began coughing up blood, a dire warning sign that something was seriously wrong. Rushed to the hospital by ambulance, she finally received a CT scan that revealed the devastating truth. The toast had torn her esophagus, causing a rupture that allowed blood to leak into her intestines. This condition, an esophageal perforation, is extraordinarily rare, occurring in only about 3 cases per million people. Dr. Marion Hughes, a senior consultant who later reviewed the case, admitted she had never encountered such an injury in nearly 40 years of medical practice. For Vera, the diagnosis came too late. Her severe heart disease made surgery impossible. Doctors could only try to manage her condition as her body weakened. Within days, she passed away, the victim of what pathologist Dr. Andrew Dalton would later describe as a massive bleed due to the tear. The inquest into Vera's death revealed the tragic series of missed opportunities. None of the doctors who examined her could have reasonably suspected such a rare injury. Without clear signs of trauma, and with Vera not mentioning the continuous nature of her pain during her second visit, the doctors made what seemed like reasonable decisions based on the information they had. Coroner Nicola Jones noted one systemic failure that might have made a difference: the hospital's reliance on paper records. If electronic medical records had been in place, Dr. Adeleke might have been aware of Vera's previous visit and the original complaint about throat pain after eating toast. This information could have prompted further investigation. Vera's death stands as a sobering reminder of how something as mundane as a piece of toast can, in extraordinarily rare circumstances, become deadly. Her case, described as a 3 in a million tragedy, highlights the unpredictable fragility of human life. For the medical community, Vera's story serves as a cautionary tale about the importance of thorough patient histories and the value of modern record-keeping systems. Though the coroner acknowledged that even with better records, Vera's rare condition might still have been missed, her death prompted recommendations for electronic medical records to help prevent similar tragedies in the future. It was July 14, 2024, in China. Xiao Ting, a 24-year-old mukbang live streamer, prepared for another marathon eating session. Her viewers were already gathering in the virtual space, eager to watch her consume an astonishing amount of food. Today's goal: 22 pounds of various dishes including seafood, chicken fingers, and chocolate cake. Pan had come a long way from her humble beginnings. Just a few years earlier, she had been working as a waitress, struggling to make ends meet. When she discovered the growing popularity of mukbang, a trend that originated in South Korea where hosts eat enormous quantities of food while interacting with viewers, she saw an opportunity. What started as a side hustle quickly became her full-time career as thousands, then tens of thousands of viewers tuned in to watch her eat. The transformation of her body told the story of her success. Once of average build, Pan now weighed approximately 660 pounds. Her massive frame was the result of countless streams where she would consume enough food for 10 people in a single sitting. Her fans sent virtual gifts worth real money, encouraging her to eat more, faster, longer. The financial rewards were substantial, enough for Pan to rent a separate studio apartment just for her streaming activities. On this fateful day, Pan's setup was meticulous. Multiple cameras captured different angles of her feast. Strategically placed microphones would pick up every chew, slurp, and swallow, sounds that her audience found oddly satisfying. The table before her was laden with dishes, platters of seafood glistening with sauce, mountains of fried chicken, bowls of noodles, and a decadent chocolate cake for dessert. As the stream began, Pan greeted her audience with her characteristic enthusiasm. "Hello, everyone. Today we have so much delicious food," she exclaimed, her face animated as she gestured to the spread before her. The chat immediately filled with messages of excitement and encouragement. Pan began with the seafood, picking up large pieces with her chopsticks and describing the flavors as she chewed. "The sauce is so rich and spicy," she told her audience between bites. She moved moved methodically through the dishes, barely pausing between servings. Her viewers watched in fascination as plate after plate was emptied. What her audience didn't know was that Pan had been hospitalized just months earlier for gastric bleeding, a direct result of her extreme eating habits. Her parents had begged her to stop the mukbang streams, warning her about the damage she was doing to her body. "What's the point of making more money?" her father had asked. "Do you know how much harm this does to your body?" Pan had dismissed their concerns. "I can bear the risk," she told them, convinced that the fame and financial rewards outweighed the health consequences. 3 hours into the stream, Pan had consumed nearly half of the food. Her breathing had become labored, but she continued eating, determined to meet her viewers' expectations. 5 hours in, she began to show signs of distress but pushed through, wiping sweat from her brow as she reached for more food. At the 7-hour mark, disaster struck. Mid-bite, Pan suddenly clutched her stomach, her expression changing from pleasure to pain. She tried to speak but could only manage a groan before slumping forward. Her viewers, initially thinking it was part of the act, soon realized something was terribly wrong as Pan remained motionless. The live stream continued to broadcast as frantic messages filled the chat. Some viewers called for help, trying to alert authorities, but it was too late. By the time emergency services reached her studio, Pan Xiao Ting had passed away, her body finally succumbing to the extreme stress she had placed upon it. An autopsy would later reveal the gruesome details. Her stomach was severely deformed and filled with undigested food. The lower part had ruptured, allowing contents to leak into her abdominal cavity. The official cause of death was listed as complications from extreme eating habits. Pan's tragic end sent shockwaves through the mukbang community and beyond, raising serious questions about the dangers of internet fame and the extreme lengths some will go to achieve it. What began as a path out of poverty had led to a public death, broadcast to the very audience that had encouraged her destructive behavior. It was July 20th, 2022 in Mumbai, India. The bustling city was in the midst of its monsoon season, and in the modest neighborhood of Pascal Wadi in Malad West, 35-year-old Rekha Nishad was dealing with a common household problem: rats. The persistent rodents had become more than a nuisance in her small home, which she shared with her husband and brother-in-law. Rekha, who worked odd jobs to help support her family, was resourceful and determined. After conventional methods failed to solve their rat problem, she devised what seemed like a practical solution. She carefully injected rat poison into several ripe tomatoes, planning to place them strategically around the house where the rodents frequented. It was a common enough tactic in neighborhoods where professional pest control was an unaffordable luxury. That evening, after a long day of work, Rekha returned home exhausted, but looking forward to a simple comfort: a hot bowl of Maggie Noodles, a popular instant meal in India. As she began preparing her dinner, she turned on the television, grateful for the distraction after a tiring day. The flickering screen captured her attention as she mechanically went through the familiar motions of cooking. Water boiled on the stove as Rekha reached for ingredients to enhance her simple meal. The kitchen was dimly lit, and her focus was divided between the cooking pot and the television program that had drawn her in. In this moment of distraction, she made a fatal error. She grabbed one of the poisoned tomatoes she had prepared earlier for the rats. Without realizing what she had done, Rekha chopped the tomato and added it to her noodles. The poison, colorless and odorless when mixed with the tomato's flesh, gave no warning of its presence. The spices and flavors of the instant noodles further masked any unusual taste. Rekha stirred the pot, unaware that she had just prepared her last meal. She settled on the couch with her bowl of noodles, enjoying the simple pleasure of dinner while watching TV. The poison worked silently as she ate, entering her system with each bite. By the time she finished her meal, the deadly substance was already beginning its work. Within hours, Rekha began experiencing severe symptoms. What started as nausea quickly escalated to intense vomiting and abdominal pain. Her husband and brother-in-law, alarmed by her rapidly deteriorating condition, realized something was terribly wrong. As her symptoms worsened, they rushed her to Shatabdi Hospital, fear evident in their eyes as Rekha struggled to remain conscious. At the hospital, doctors worked frantically to determine the cause of her sudden illness. It was Rekha herself who provided the crucial information, explaining between bouts of pain that she had accidentally used a poisoned tomato in her cooking. This revelation allowed the medical team to identify the poison and attempt appropriate treatment. Despite their efforts, the poison had already caused extensive damage to Rekha's system. For 2 days, she fought for her life as the medical staff did everything they could to counteract the effects of the rat poison. Her family maintained a constant vigil by her bedside, hoping for a miracle. On July 22nd, just 2 days after her fatal meal, Rekha Nishad passed away. The poison, designed to kill small rodents, had proven equally lethal to a human when consumed in a single concentrated dose. Police from the Malvani station investigated the incident, recording Rekha's statement before her death and examining the remaining poisoned tomatoes in her home. They concluded there was no foul play involved, just a tragic accident born of a moment's distraction. Rekha's death sent ripples through her community, a stark reminder of how quickly life can change. What made her story particularly heartbreaking was the ordinariness of the circumstances. A working woman preparing a simple meal, momentarily distracted by television, making a single mistake that would cost her everything. It was September 19, 2008, in Edlington, South Yorkshire, England. Andrew Lee, a 33-year-old forklift truck driver with dreams of becoming a chef, was about to face an unexpected end to his culinary adventures. Andrew had always been passionate about cooking, especially dishes with bold, spicy flavors. Having recently passed a full medical exam, he was the picture of health, strong, vibrant, and full of life. No one could have predicted that his love for spicy food would lead to such a tragic outcome. On this fateful day, Andrew's father presented him with a harvest of homegrown red chili peppers. The peppers were vibrant, glossy, and promised intense heat, perfect for Andrew's adventurous palate. What should have been just another ingredient in his cooking arsenal became the centerpiece of a deadly challenge. Andrew decided to transform these chilies into a competition. He invited his girlfriend Samantha Bailey's brother Michael over, proposing a contest to see who could create and consume the hottest sauce possible. The competition wasn't spontaneous but had been planned for days. Andrew's father had specifically cultivated these chilies for this purpose, growing varieties known for their blistering heat. In the kitchen, Andrew worked with focused intensity, chopping the chilies and creating a sauce that would push the boundaries of heat tolerance. After preparing the fiery concoction, Andrew tested it with a quick finger dip. His immediate reaction, rushing to wash his hands while commenting on the extraordinary heat, should have been the first warning sign. The atmosphere remained lighthearted as Andrew mixed the sauce with a plate of pasta. Michael watched as Andrew consumed the entire plate. Despite the obvious burning sensation that flushed his face and caused beads of sweat to form on his forehead, Andrew finished every bite, determined to prove his heat tolerance. This wasn't even Andrew's first meal of the evening. He had already enjoyed a dinner of lamb chops and mashed potatoes after work. The chili challenge was purely for sport, a friendly competition that would have unforeseen consequences. As the evening progressed, Andrew's body began to react to the extreme capsaicin levels. What started as the familiar burn of spicy food transformed into something more concerning. An intense, unbearable itching spread across his entire body, becoming increasingly severe as the night wore on. Samantha tried to ease his suffering by scratching his back as he attempted to sleep. The itching seemed to subside enough for Andrew to finally drift off around 2:30 a.m. Neither of them realized these were his final hours. When morning came, Samantha awoke to find Andrew unresponsive beside her. Despite the frantic emergency call and the rapid arrival of paramedics, nothing could be done. Andrew Lee was pronounced dead at the scene. The investigation into his sudden death pointed to the extreme heat from the homemade chili sauce as the likely trigger for a severe physiological reaction. The capsaicin in chili peppers, while generally safe in normal quantities, can in rare cases cause extreme responses in the body. The post-mortem examination revealed no pre-existing heart condition or other health issues that might explain his sudden death, making the connection to the chili sauce even more compelling. Andrew's story stands as a sobering reminder that even seemingly harmless food challenges can have devastating consequences. What began as a lighthearted competition between friends ended in an unimaginable tragedy, leaving a family to mourn a vibrant life cut short by something as seemingly innocent as a homemade chili sauce that proved, literally, too hot to handle. Thanks for watching. These food fatalities were just the appetizer. There's a whole buffet of strange, shocking, and unforgettable true stories still to come. Stick around, there's always another story waiting to be told.